Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Beanie Boy, your host, and welcome to Indie Corner, the show that'll take you on a deeper look at indie games and the ideas that they bring to the table. Today we'll be taking a look at Ronin, a side-scrolling 2D action game made by Devolver Digital that combines elements of turn-based RPGs and platformers to create its own unique melange of an experience inspired by games like Gunpoint. Let's get into it, shall we? Ronin's story is pretty bare bones at best. A lone ninja seeking revenge on a large corporation for, well, I don't know exactly. The game doesn't take the time to tell us why we're trying to kill these people. Even the Steam page repeats that we're seeking revenge or that we're on a quest for vengeance, but we have no idea why. Apparently it's enough that we're putting on a motorcycle helmet and killing people with a katana. Also, can we take a sec to think about these poor security guards? I'm pretty sure they didn't sign up for this. Or this. Or that. Or that. Visually, Ronin's a pretty plain looking game, but that in no way subtracts from its style. Rather, the angled and fairly minimalistic presentation of the characters of the game and the world around them actually helps the player to quickly identify what's going on in a particular set piece. The guards, the computers, and the player character are always really easy to pick out, making it easy to plan an approach. While it's not the most visually stunning game I've ever played, Ronin is like a coconut in the fruits basket that is indie games. Not the prettiest looking on the outside, but you hope that the inside will have enough substance to fulfill the cravings you have. Unfortunately, like a coconut that's filled with marbles, Ronin's gameplay doesn't deliver on the initial promise. The game offers a mix of real-time movement with turn-based combat, and you can really feel the influence that Gunpoint had on the development of this game. The thing is though, the influence of Gunpoint on this game is what becomes its main drawback. You see, by trying to be another Gunpoint, or even in some places almost like it's trying to be a better Gunpoint, the game limits itself. Ronin tries to give the player freedom through the movement system, but that in and of itself is hampered whenever you go into the turn-based combat mode, and that really hurts the game. For one thing, your main mode of movement is going to be jumping, which is accomplished by clicking the left mouse button and dragging until the end of the arc reaches where you want to go. In Gunpoint, this arc was super precise, and with some skill, you could pull off some really amazing jumps to get out of those clutch situations like when you're cornered by a guard, or you want to get out of a window or a trap door, or out of the range of a security camera really fast. But in Ronin, using the jump arc to get around is really more of a hindrance than anything. The controls are so loose to where it's hard to pinpoint exactly where you want the jump arc to go, and getting it to work in combat situations is often a lot more of a hassle than it needs to be, and that really hurts the game, especially when you're surrounded by multiple enemies, which is going to happen fairly frequently. Speaking of enemies, the game presents them in a way that's honestly both kind of the highlight of the experience, and yet it feels really unfinished. When you're targeted by enemies, you can see their line of sight, and that helps you to plan ways to get around them. This can lead to some really interesting and hilarious misplays when trying to get around and away from enemies, especially the samurai dudes with Goku's instant transmission. What kills it though, aside from the wonky movement system, is that the spawn system of some of the enemies is just really weird. This one level I tried getting through had guards that seemed to spawn again as soon as I killed them and moved the camera past their spawn area, making the entire experience really annoying because I was literally killing the same guys over and over after I'd already bypassed them. It didn't make the experience any more fun. At all. The game tries to mitigate some of this by allowing you to buy new skills, like throwing your sword at enemies, with skill points if you fulfill certain criteria, such as killing all the enemies, not harming civilians, not being detected, that sort of stuff. The thing is though, getting the skill points is hassle enough when you're trying to master the mechanics of the game enough to move around with the least amount of resistance, but it doesn't help when you literally have to buy empty space in between the skills on the skill chart in order for you to unlock a new skill. I don't get this at all. Why should I have to waste my hard-earned skill points on literally nothing to get a new skill? If you want to stop the player from getting skills with literally every level, make then the next skill cost 2 skill points instead of just 1. I know that the two systems would be mechanically identical, but as a player, looking at it from that perspective, it feels a lot better because it doesn't feel right that I should have to literally buy nothing in order to get to what I want, you know? I don't know, maybe it's just me. All in all, Ronin is a game that suffers from something of an identity crisis. It really wants to be its own action game, but it's held back by the shackles that it put on itself by taking so much inspiration from Gunpoint. The movement system and the turn-based combat were a cool way for it to try to get around that, but ultimately, those were also limited by the fact that it's inspired by Gunpoint. And that stems from the fact that Gunpoint and Ronin ultimately have two separate agendas for each game. Gunpoint is a stealth-oriented game. You want to get into a building, hack, grab information, and get out without being seen, or by making as little noise and being detected as little as possible. In Gunpoint, pretty much as soon as you're detected, it's over because, well, the guards have shot you. You gotta start again. But what it does is it uses its mechanics to support that type of gameplay. The gameplay that encourages you to get in, get out without being seen. In Gunpoint, the game and the mechanics mesh together in such a way that you feel like a pretty boss industrial spy guy. But in Ronin, the end goal for the game is entirely different, and that changes everything. And the mechanics don't really support the gameplay in the same way that Gunpoint does. Ronin wants you to feel like a badass ninja, running through buildings, killing all these people, and then getting revenge on the people who wronged you, but in practice, the gameplay of it, you don't feel like a badass ninja. In fact, I really felt a lot more like a novice ninja who just got like 5 minutes of his sensei's training and immediately tried to go out and do some awesome stuff in the world, but just wasn't prepared for it. Personally, I've only put about 2 hours in the Ronin, so that's not a full playthrough, so take my words with a grain of salt, but I feel like I've seen enough to get a basic grasp of what the game is and what it's trying to do. And to be honest, it's not really delivering on what it's trying to. I wanted to love this game, I really did, but the overall jankiness of the gameplay and the skill system really dampened my affection for it. If I could change anything, I'd make the controls a whole lot tighter, and I would completely scrap the turn-based system for a real-time one that would force you as the player to make more decisions on the fly. The enemies would still have their lines of sight, but there would be enough time between their actions for you to be able to move around and do stuff. Maybe a pause button would help, a la FTL. I'm not sure. But in the end, Ronin is a game that tries to build on what Gunpoint set down, but is in and of itself limited by the fact that it's trying to build a new system on top of a system that's pretty much already self-contained. And that's a shame. On the beanie scale, Ronin gets a 6 out of 10 beanies. It tried to live up to its inspiration, but its aspiration to be like its inspiration is ultimately what held it back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, apart from my weird commentary style, I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope to make Indie Corner a fairly weekly series on this channel. I really enjoy just playing games and then thinking about them and writing about them and talking about them, so we'll see how this goes. Leave me a comment below if you liked the video, please leave me a thumbs up, and if you want to see more stuff like this, please subscribe. It really lets me know that people actually enjoy the stuff I put out here, and it helps keep me motivated to make more awesome stuff for you guys. I've been Beanie Boy, you guys have been in the awesome audience, and I'll catch you all next time.